Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to ET Health World's live webinar on impact of artificial intelligence in cervical health and screening. According to the World Health Organization, cervical cancer is one of the most preventable and treatable forms of cancer. However, cases of cervical cancer are rising in India at an alarming rate, with the disease claiming one woman's life every 8 minutes. To deliberate on the incidence of disease, importance of health screening in women, and role of new age technologies for quick and safe diagnosis of cervical cancer, I, Rashmi Mabian, have been joined by an esteemed panel, Dr. Vijaya, Director, Institute of Obstetrics Gynecology at Egmore Medical College, Dr. Narendra Malhotra, MD Global Rainbow Healthcare and past president of Foxy, Dr. Malaika Samuel, consultant gynecologist at Brainworks, Mobile OTD, Apollo First Medical Hospital, Mr. S. Ganesh Prasad, founder and MD of GenWorks Health, and Dr. Alexander Zimmer, Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Wroclaw Medical University. Thank you all the experts for joining us today. So I would like to inform that we will be having a Q&A session, so all attendees can share their questions in the chat window during the panel discussion. According to a data, in a population of 1.3 billion, every 25.3 women per 1 lakh is diagnosed with cervical cancer in India. Approximately 1,25,000 women get diagnosed with cervical cancer every year, and 70,000 to 80,000 succumb to this death. And with this, we will begin by understanding from Dr. Vijaya, why is there such a high incidence of cervical cancer in India as compared to the Western world?
So you have to unmute.
Yeah, very true. So many people are unaware there is a screening that exists. The first point is it is not seen visibly. Like breast cancer, where the people can notice immediately if there is a change in the size of the breast or there is any bleeding or discharge. Whereas the cervix is a hidden part inside our genitalia, and people are very, very apprehensive to go for an annual checkup because they are not that much illiterate, and also the lack of awareness of screening. That is the utmost important point. But the only positive in cervical cancer is it presents with bleeding and white discharge. But then by the time it is delayed, the cancer has already come into us. What our aim today is to detect is in the pre-invasive stage. So more of health education and especially starting with the school is more important to create awareness.
So when we talk about the lack of awareness and on being the contributory factors, what are the other factors do you think are causing this rise in the cervical cancer?
This 25%, 25 per 1 lakh is the incidence of cervical cancer, and it's more common in the developing countries. And in our state, Tamil Nadu, part of India, where we are the foremost runner of the healthcare programs, and we are the number one. I can boldly say Narendran sir is there, but still I can boldly say Tamil Nadu is one of the best in the healthcare program implementation. So we have started training our staff nurses in detecting the pre-invasive cervical lesion at the earliest. So we have just now started, and we have included the cancer also in the non-communicable disease program, and so we are targeting on the staff nurses. That is where we can reach the innermost part of the village.
Thank you, Dr. Vijaya. Now we understand that cervical cancer can be cured if diagnosed at early stage. To know how regular screening makes such a huge difference, I would like to come to you, Dr. Narendra. How, according to you, do gynecologists play a crucial role in prevention of cervical cancer?
So, adding to Dr. Vijaya's, I did my residency in Pondicherry under Dr. Rajaram. We had an Ethicon fellowship, and that place was like the cancer cervix hub. And we saw so many operations on that coastal and so many cases that we were shocked that India has so much cancer in the coastal India, probably because of sailors coming in and promiscuity and all that. and we had a fantastic build up, and that changed my whole thing that I want to do cancer only. Unfortunately, could not go into cancers in detail and shift it to infertility, but that was my first exposure after my MD into cancer cervix. And then we took part in a lot of FOXY programs. I was the FOXY chairperson in the 90s. And then 2008, I became the president of FOXY. So now FOXY is Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies of India. It has got 38,000 members, and it is spread over 232 cities as branches. Now we have 27 committees. We have an oncology committee, and we have a public awareness committee, and we have a women's health committee, and we have an imaging science and diagnostic. So all these committees every year celebrate all the cancer days, and we do programs on awareness with FOXY every month. So there is a program on cancer cervix. Still 8 women are dying per minute of cancer cervix. So as big as maternal mortality of cancer cervix and breast. So we still need a lot of awareness. And then we have one of our FOXians, Dr. Neerja Batla of Delhi, AIIMS, who's the member of the International FIGO Cancer Cervix Committee. So we took part in the finding of guidelines. We took part in the cancer cervix evaluation and treatment guidelines as FOXY. So FOXY has been very, very active in cancer awareness programs all over India, and it still is. And this month again, we saw, because January is the month of cancer cervix awareness, so we saw a lot of programs. On the 30th, again, FOXY is doing a very huge awareness program all over India. There have been cancer cervical camps which have been organized all over India by visual examination, by acetic acid test, by pap smears. So a lot of work is being done, but I think we still need to do more to make the public aware that this is a problem which can be cured if you come early. So that is what is the biggest challenge.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narendra, for sharing what FOXY and the initiatives that you've also taken part in. Could you tell us some of the challenges that you face, and how do you think that the new technologies are helping in solving those challenges?
So the biggest challenge is standardization. Biggest challenge is that doctor or the small clinic in the villages or in the periphery, what do they do? So they put in a speculum and they write cervical erosion, and that's it. And probably they will take a conventional pap smear if it is available, probably not even that. And they will not do the acetic acid test, and they will not do the Lugol's iodine test for visual. So VIA algorithms were made by us and circulated right down, but still to a lot of teaching has to be done to the periphery doctor first. So if the doctor at the periphery, the primary health center, or a FOXY member or a gynecologist from the city goes to the primary health center and does the visual examination by a standard protocol and an algorithm, and has a colposcope and has an intelligent colposcope which could be carried everywhere, and simple Lugol's, and then probably make a very standard diagnosis, whether it's coming in dysplasias, whether it's just a squamocolumnar junction abnormality, whether it's punctate lesions, whether it's hyperemia, whether it's whatever. And so then we can, once we get a standard diagnosis from everyone, then only we'll be able to do standard treatment and give them standard line of treatment. So catch this cancer, or what we call as spot the cancer before it spots you. And that is what we gave as a slogan. And here we have now a visual check machine, the EVA, which we've been using since the last 1.5 years in our private clinic. We've hardly kept any charge for it, but with this, and contributed to from the 5 Indian centers, our center has been the one who's contributed to the artificial intelligence software, which has been made from 500 doctors all over the world. So this once you get that picture, automatically it gives you these are the options of the diagnosis, which could be. You can modify the diagnosis if you think the machine is telling you wrong, but then it goes into a lot of help in standardizing the diagnosis part, which is very, very important.
Coming to you, Dr. Malika, how can technologies like Dr. Narendra mentioned, EVA, transform screening situation in India, according to you?
Firstly, I want to thank you for having me for this webinar. It's a real privilege. Now, surely the EVA has radically changed screening for cervical cancer. Now, in the sense that uh, I have been working with EVA now for the past 2 to 3 years, and I belong to Apollo Hospital and to the Apollo Hospital research wing. So we have done a pilot study which involved 6 centers all over the south of India, and we did a pilot study for the efficacy of EVA. And we found that, that the thing about it, firstly, the device itself, it consists of these 3 parts, as you know. The first part being the device itself, where it contains the beautiful light, the kind of light that you have, non-polarizing, glare-free light, which is actually loaded into this EVA, is something which is very, very useful. I mean, if you have been using a regular colposcope, you know what I'm talking about, because it is not cumbersome and it is so easily inbuilt into the system. Now, in addition to this, you have a 16-time magnification, which is also very good, because if you were looking at something like a villi, you're looking at it with just your own bare eyes, your vision is limited. But when there's an enhanced image, and EVA is enhanced visual analytics. So when there's an enhanced image, you definitely see much better. So like Dr. Narendra was saying, you can make out the squamocolumnar junction, you can make out any abnormalities over there, you can make out punctate lesions, you can put the green filter, and you can check out for vascular changes. So all of these things, that is the actual what you call the technology behind it, really helps you. It enhances what you are doing, it enhances what you're seeing, and therefore what you're diagnosing. It is much easier and therefore also more accurate. And then, of course, that's not the end. You also have the software. The software helps an easy flow of work, if you know what I mean. You're able to sort of tabulate each patient into your device, and then you're able to put into the same framework. You're able to say what her symptoms are, her last period, her number of children, all the basic information that you need, and it all goes into one package, and you do not have to turn pages. And then you take the images. You're able to save the images under the same heading. And also, the other thing is the portal. The portal is that you are able to actually, when you have taken these images, you're able to sync your work. And given your clinical impression, you're able to sync your work onto the portal, onto the cloud, wherein I'm sure Dr. Narendra is doing this also, wherein I am now looking at images which are taken all over India. Suppose somebody buys a device initially, and they are not very familiar with the various diagnose that you can make, and in that situation, they would send the images to me through their portal, and they would share their ID with me actually, and then I would go online, find that image, and give a diagnosis. So then they share the diagnosis with the patient. So it's like half a headache, you don't have the full headache, you just have to take the images and send it. So I think this is a fantastic tool, and it is well worth, using. And especially like Dr. Narendra pointed out, if we would use this in centers where doctors have not had the chance to actually upgrade themselves, and or sort of spend many hours going through some kind of training, that if they could just take these images, if they could take good images and send it across, somebody could actually interpret it for them and their patient really benefits. So in one shot, everything is over. That you don't have to first do a pap smear, and then you don't have to then come back, and then, after that, when the report comes, and then come for a colposcopy, and then come back. So all that sort of, because the patient loss to follow up is another major challenge that all of us as physicians face. So it also overcomes that kind of a problem.
So, ma'am, when we're talking about the screening methodologies, how has it changed for you, and what is your method to screen patients for cervical health? And over the years, with the latest technologies as well, how has the practice changed for you?
So now in the initial years, what we did basically was that as gynecologists, we know that every woman who comes to the gynae clinic, if at all possible, we would do a pap smear. We do not want to lose that contact. So we would do a pap smear, and then, we would follow up. But in now, of course, what we do is that when we look at the cervix, in my clinic, what I do is if I look at the cervix and it looks suspicious, I would just do the pap smear anyway, but also follow up with an EVA, which means that if I put aceto white and I find an aceto white area, if I put acetic acid and I find an aceto white area, that is the change in color, it blanches, then I would probably, if I think it's suspicious, I would take a biopsy from it at the same sitting with the consent of the patient. Now, that's very important. So if the patient says it's okay to do it, then I would take a biopsy and I would send it across. So at one shot, everything is over. If that is not possible, then at a later date, I would sort of schedule an examination with the EVA and then call her in and do the same thing. So that would actually, what that means.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. So then what it means basically is that you save a lot of time, and you definitely do not lose the follow-up that you have for the patient. And that is useful.
Mr. Ganesh Prasad, as a technology company, what is your view towards the prevention of cervical cancer?
So absolutely, I think not just in cervical cancer, but as a technology company, I fundamentally believe that anything we bring in as technology should solve for a problem, should help the clinician to be able to quickly diagnose and start treatment. That's the whole purpose of bringing in technology in healthcare. So now, of course, now focusing on cancer, especially on women's health, if you really see, as Dr. Vijaya said, cervical cancer is something which is unseen. And it's very important that, we bring in a device, and not just a device which is complicated to use, but bring in a device at point of care, which can, which aligns to the workflow, which is can be used in low resource settings as well. And also, if possible, bring in an ability to connect to an expert to be able to support with an assessment. And we've gone, the mobile ODT team who's created this technology has gone one step more. And in fact, they have brought in the AI layer as well to be able to, Dr. Narendra explained this. He was one of those, who evaluated this AI and participated in this global, global collaboration to make sure that we are able to identify the right problems and make sure that the AI, works efficiently. So that's another thing which has come in as an additional layer. So effectively, as a technology company, what am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? We have to be responsible about bringing a solution for a problem, not making the technology a problem. We are responsible about making it, very, very ubiquitous. When I say ubiquitous, at point of care, we have to make it, we have to demystify the use fundamentally that anyone can use it. Dr. Narendra was just very nice of him to show the product itself. You can see the product is just like a mobile phone and a camera on it and a light source on it. And, you just point on the cervix. Of course, like Dr. Vijaya said, the paramedics can be trained to put a speculum, put acetic acid, and then look at the, look at the cervix, and then take a picture. When they take the picture, obviously they can share it The AI layer can help you to give. So we are completely looking at end-to-end solving for the physician problem, which is quickly identifying, diagnosing, and starting treatment. So that's my outlook of how we should. And definitely in cancer, which can be prevented. Cervical cancer can be prevented. Seeing it early and making sure that it doesn't progress is a huge help. And I think this plays a very significant role. And I should say in the last 3 years, we've done significant progress, great adoption. This device now is available in length and breadth of the country, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, low resource settings. I'm sure very soon government will take notice of this and include this in their program. Gynecologists are, I'm so glad that one of my close friends, gynecologist, said it's a gynec stethoscope. So I loved that. I loved her saying that, come on, Ganesh, this is not a device, it's a gynec stethoscope. And that's how tight it is. So that's my view on what should technology be. End of the day, it should help the physician focus on the problem, diagnose accurately, do a treatment, that has, that is a clear evidence-based treatment.
So as you mentioned how things are working, how are you working towards building awareness, and what do you think are the challenges when you work towards developing a technology for something as crucial as cervical cancer?
Obviously, we can't say that doctors are not aware of what's the method to look at or treat. Okay, when we are bringing in a disruption in technology as this, we can't let it to be known by doctors by themselves. I firmly believe that we have a huge responsibility as a technology company to promote awareness. I don't believe in advertisement at all. But awareness is important. There's a big difference between advertisement and awareness. Awareness is bringing out the value of such, bringing out the differentiating value of such, bringing out the impact that this makes in terms of reducing mortality and improving clinical outcomes. So we've done a lot of, thankfully I think we have friends like Dr. Narendra, we have friends like Dr. Vijaya, Dr. Mallika, Dr. Foxy chairman, a big influencer in the government. Obviously, Dr. Mallika very early in the Apollo research program incubated us, made a lot of effort to bring in evidence to prove that this product has value, because whom are we fighting? We are fighting, you remember this, we are fighting the large equipment. The same colposcope was available, which was filling half your room. It was like the olden days of, we used to have our big transistor sets or our telephones or our big mobile phones. This device was fighting that. And to believe that a device as this can be at least as impactful as that is not easy for anyone to accept. And that's where we have help from, our friends in the community healthcare community who we have worked for many, many years together, and they trust us, they support us, they prove the evidence, they prove that these bring value to the physician practice. And after that, obviously, we have to take it across the length and breadth. And the second fundamental thing when I say awareness is training. So it's not that, I just give a device and then say it's your problem. Even as simple a device as this, it's like this, I always remember when iPhone came in, I was so happy. I wanted to give one to my dad. When I asked him, he said, I don't want this. It's not that he was averse to using it, but he was not, ready to use that at that point in time. So it's very important to say that it's not as complex as what any one of you may think, because it is small. It's so compact, but it solves for a lot of complexities. So that's the training that we have to bring in, and of course the clinical training, and which we have to participate with various forums as this. In association with ICCP, we did a good program. We continuously do this seminars. We participate in almost all events, Foxy events. We share the product. We allow them to use it, demonstrate it, bring the value. Of course, these are all things that we have to do, to build awareness. Awareness obviously cannot be just talking about the problem and leaving the solution, and also to be participating with the customers to prove as to how we can solve for, and that brings in more adoption. And that's my view of how we can participate, and we certainly believe in doing that. We've done that over many years. We did it for the ultrasound. Dr. Narendra knows this very well. when, for over 2-3 decades, we've been doing it with Dr. Narendra. And of course, for any device, I certainly believe that that's the value we can bring in as a company. We just can't be a transaction agent. We have to be completely inclusive in terms of, participating, to make sure that the end use of it is realized.
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, and we really hope that all that you hope for and you do achieve it. We also have Dr. Alexandra. Dr. Alexandra, what is the role of visual check and how has it helped you in your clinical practice?
So hello from Europe. I'm not very familiar with the screening programs in India, but I'm working in a tertiary center in an academic hospital. So we are currently testing EVA in 2 ways. One of them was mentioned similarly by Dr. Malika. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
That's right.
So that would be the role of EVA in a regular screening outpatient care suburbs somewhere in the middle of the country where not maybe all doctors are familiar with the screening programs. And the other way, we are also testing how it can help with the very advanced teaching hospital centers where we already have patients directed to us with the pre-diagnosed pathology, and is that of any help? I mean, the EVA and the quality of the picture that you described so perfectly. So in Poland, we have a very precise screening program, so we don't really have the problem of pap smear. We are currently more fighting for making the LBC and HPV testing more available. The pap smear is a routine, but we are trying to prove, and I think we are succeeding in showing that EVA actually is an additional tool that can help you with the pap smear. So as a first step of more advanced expert opinion at your fingertips. So we are testing and working with it and treating it as our senior consultant next to a very basic resident or even maybe a midwife, that after a regular screening, after taking the pap smear, just adding acetic acid, waiting 30 seconds, the EVA even counts the seconds for us. So that's just, you don't have to think about it. And then she rules good or bad, green light or red light, as Dr. Malika mentioned. So we are checking how accurate the EVA ruling is, and then retesting patients, taking biopsies if the red light appeared. So we are treating the EVA device and the mobile ODT system as a kind of additional help, the expert opinion when the expert is not available just next door to ask him or her. And currently we can see that actually she's really good at picking up those curious cases where you thought that maybe the cervix would look good, there was no whitening, there was nothing, and she saw something. Then we are retesting the patient, or the patient is directed to us, as I'm working in a cervical pathology department, and then there is something, and the histopathology is actually confirming that. And as all the doctors and distinguished guests here confirmed, the most important thing is to catch those patients early at the pre-invasive stages, preferably HSIL or LSIL, or how soon, the sooner the better. So, or even with just the HPV positive, high risk HPV, and just warning her to get a regular checkups. And if we get that, we basically saved her life. So that's the goal. And I'm pretty sure that every additional tool in our country, additional to cytology, so I wouldn't replace the pap smear or LBC or co-test with EVA, but I assume that there are different necessary additional ads in different parts of countries and different countries, but adding it to a regular screening just simply improves the quality of the medical consultation that you are giving to the patient, and making her being diagnosed with the cancer sooner saves her life. So that's how EVA helps us. She gives us the red light when not every doctor, especially not the advanced colposcopist, would see the red light. Before he notices it, EVA notices it, and we just do the rest. We test her, we take the biopsy, and we just follow with the guidelines. So I think that's the most important thing. It really can, every year counts in the matter of the cancer progression. So this year 1 year, 2 years saved. I cannot say precisely how many, but any even months can help. So that's what EVA does.
So if you had to highlight the major advantages of this, of having this artificial intelligence in cervical health screening devices, what would those be?
That's what Dr. Narendra said. It's tiny. It's very high quality. It's packed with technology. For us, with many patients in the hospitals or in our private practice, it's important that it works fast. It doesn't need you to prolong your visit, because it takes 30 seconds for acetic acid to work. Also, it doesn't stain your workplace with different stains that we also use sometimes, iodine and so on and so on. Just acetic acid is pretty clear and safe, I would say, easy to clean. And after 30 seconds, you don't even need to touch the device to take the photo. You just wave, and it takes the perfect quality, high resolution photo that you can analyze yourself. You can then view not only on the screen on the device, but you can see it on your laptop or your computer, on your TV even, if you do want, probably, and you can analyze it yourself. You can send it to your colleagues, experts in the colposcopy field. And you can also, partially at least, because it's in the trial, so I cannot say you can rely 100%, but hopefully you will be able to rely on the decision of this artificial intelligence, the mysterious cloud ruling god of colposcopy, who really is very simple to interpret, because it's either red light or green light. So there's nothing simplest than that. So that's I think what are the main advantages: fast, not messy, reliable, doesn't require you to prolong your visit, and you get the answer immediately. You don't need to wait for your histopathology result. So I would say these are the top 5.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmer, for beautifully explaining those. Coming back to you, Dr. Vijaya, talking about prevention of cervical cancer, where is India on WHO and Ministry of Health's guidelines and initiatives?
Yeah. As I said earlier, the doctors, we are concentrating only on the, started with the village side, because from the primary health center, we are to start a screening. So we started training our nurses on see and treat program, where we did a speculum examination and see any obvious growth, or ultimately they will refer. But the thing is, using them, earlier we started with the Via and Villi, both acetic acid and Lugol's iodine. Now we have stopped that Villi. We are doing only Via with acetic acid, 5% acetic acid. And we trained our staff nurses to identify the aceto-white patches, and then they will immediately refer them to a nearby district headquarters hospital. Almost all of the Tamil Nadu district headquarters and medical colleges are provided with colposcopy, and immediately they will be sent, and we will issue them an ID card with their number, and so that it will be centralized. We can follow the patient. Most important is following up the pre-invasive cervical lesion, because it's a long journey from the pre-invasive to become a cancer cervix. It takes almost 10 years. We have that much of opportunity to catch the patient before they become cancerous. So the follow-up is very, very important. And another interesting thing is this colposcopy program has come under the PM insurance. So if the patient has the insurance card, automatically they need not pay even a single pie, and the subsequent treatment will be very, very free for them, like cryo or LEAP, whatever procedure we are doing for a pre-invasive lesion. So the only disadvantage is the colposcopy. What we have is a digital colposcope, manual, as well as the video colposcope. It is not handy. That is the only thing. So the other day they came to demonstrate this EVA, and a few of my doctors. Can I say the negative part of it also, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you can share your views.
No, they were telling it is very fragile. Suppose if we drop it, what happens? Like an iPhone, It's that is it. All my assistants before I came into the panel, I just called them and asked them, "How are you satisfied with this EVA and hand colposcope?" So that it is very easy to screen and treat the patient, and we can even take them for camps instead of taking our manual colposcope. The only thing they were telling is it was very fragile. Suppose we drop it by mistake, that's all. The entire thing is gone. That is the only thing they were telling. Otherwise, the picture and everything, they were clear. They were very happy about that. So I just want to discuss about that later, sir. So apart from this, this insurance coverage and following up and giving them a separate ID card, that is the thing we are doing in the government.
So following up is something that is really important when it comes to cancer care. Coming to Dr. Malaika, what are the do's and don'ts in prevention of cervical cancer according to you?
Yeah, the do's and don'ts of screening for cervical cancer is probably what you mean. Now, the important thing for us to know is that the recommended age for screening is from 21 to 65. Now, why 21? Why 65? We say 21 because we know that even if a person has been sexually active in their teens, it would still take about 10 years for a lesion to appear. And therefore, to do it before that will not make sense. At the same time, if you do it, you need not do it after 65, because if a person has had pap smears or screenings which are negative, for instance, if you have a pap smear which is negative for malignancy, or they are negative for HPV at the age of 65, they've never had a precancerous lesion, then there is no need to screen after 65. So that's the age criteria that we need to remember. But we also need to remember that if a person is immunocompromised, they are diabetic, or they have any history of having consumed DES, in all of these cases, then the interval of screening would be more frequent. So that's one thing about the do's. The other thing is that in pregnancy, do we screen or do we not screen? So this is an issue which all of us face as clinicians. I am reluctant to do a pap smear when a woman comes with her pregnancy in the first visit, because I don't think her mother would like it, and neither would the patient like it, because they are very protective of her condition right then. But it is recommended that women, because the reproductive age group is the time when cervical cancer actually presents, that it can be done during when they come for their first visit during pregnancy. So the other thing is, can pap smears be done when a person is menstruating? It is better to avoid having a pap smear when you're doing when a person is in a period, because it would definitely confuse the picture. There are many other things that we need to watch out for. That is, how do you keep doing a pap smear every year? No, you don't. If a woman has had a pap smear which is negative, you can repeat the pap smear after 3 years. If you're doing a HPV or a self-pap, you could do a repeat after 5 years. Whereas if you do a pap smear and a pap smear is coming out not positive, not negative, but ascus, then you have to triage with another modality of screening, like you can do a HPV also along with the pap, and then take it on from there. So these are the conditions that we think about screening, and screening as, with these guidelines, and these guidelines that have been actually set up by the American College of Cancer of Colposcopists, as well as the GCPR of FOGSI, that is the Good Clinical Practice of FOGSI guidelines. So that would be the do's and don'ts that we would think about when we're doing cervical screening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the experts for sharing their views. Now, we have a set of questions that we've received from our attendees. So without wasting any time, I'll now be beginning with the Q&A, and these will be open to all speakers. So the first question is cancer screening there in any of the maternal health programs or adolescent health programs?
So yes, the government has a cancer service, but they have it only with the visual examination at the periphery. And now they've provided colposcopes to all the medical colleges. And so the colposcopic at the medical colleges also would have a program. So it is in a cancer screening program, yes.
We have VIA, that is visual inspection with acetic acid. That is there in the villages. Colposcopes are not there. But then screening the college going girls or talking about the HPV vaccination, of course we do, because that is very, very important, because that is not taken off in India because of the few side effects when the vaccination has started. Few of the cases had nausea, vomiting and giddiness. So they stopped the HPV vaccination. Now the government is into bringing the HPV vaccination, and Foxy is also supporting, isn't it, sir?
So we did this in 2018 when my wife, Dr. Jaideep, was the president of Foxy. The whole new program of Screen the Mother, Vaccinate the Daughter started.
Yes, sir.
And it started from Varanasi just after the Foxy Bangalore Congress. And when we said there was a economic forum which was funding the whole program, but when we went to the government, they have the Sampurna clinics. And the Sampurna clinics in Uttar Pradesh are only cancer screening clinics and vaccinating. And they bought, these Sampurna clinics have brought huge amount of doses of cancer cervix vaccine, but they did not know how to give it. So Foxy helped that, and we have, since 2018, we are now in Uttar Pradesh vaccinating all the girls. When these mothers come with the girls, so we started screening the mothers by VIA, or teaching the Sampurna clinic worker there, screen the mother, put a speculum, put acetic acid, see, look at it. If you have a colposcope there, do a colposcopy and vaccinate, give the shot to the daughter, and bring another one or your neighbor the next time. So it's a very good program, and it's running pretty well in Uttar Pradesh now.
Thank you, Dr. Narendra. The second question is, are there training programs on cervical cancer given to nurses and on awareness trainings to ASHA workers?
So, well, Foxy as a society has training programs on colposcopy and cancer screening through its committee for the doctors, for Foxy members, 38,000 gynecologists, not, see, even MBBS, if you're not a Foxy member, you can be a Foxy member as MBBS, the type 2 member, non-voting. So you could get a 6 months fellowship program in Foxy or a 15-day orientation course. For nurses and for the gynecologists have not yet officially started, though we are, when we train the nurses under the Manyata program for obstetric care, we do tell them about per speculum examination of the cervix and all that things. But I don't think we have a formal program running from Foxy. I think the government does run a program on, with ASHA.
Yes,
ASHA workers, yes. Dr. Vijay is saying yes.
Yeah, National Health Mission. Yeah, that National Health Mission. Sorry, sir. National Health Mission has taken up the program to train the nurses. We are into treating the pre-invasive, detecting and treating the pre-invasive lesions. So all our nurses are trained. There are separate staff nurses paid by the NCD wing of NHM. So the payment and the salary and the training, everything is taken care by the National Health Mission.
So they do it with only examination by the speculum. Now, if you have this device, this nurse will just has to put the device at the speculum, get a picture, send that picture to the expert, to Vijaya, to AIMS, to anywhere, to us or a team who looks after, and that's it. It becomes so simple. So I think we need to take technology to where it is needed most. That is at the periphery. And if this technology remains only in Bombay, Delhi, Goa, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, then it's of no use. Here we are already aware. We are doing PAPS, LVCs. We are doing direct to slide tests, which are the most advanced tests. But this is needed this is to be done where it is needed. And fragile, yes, everything is fragile. If I drop my phone, whatever it is going to break. So if you drop a big colposcope, it is going to break. So you have to be careful of not dropping. If you drop your spectacles, they'll break. So the things are fragile. Good things are always fragile.
Good things are always fragile, yes.
So the next question is for Dr. Malaika. How
Yeah,
frequently
Malika,
should
actually. Sorry.
it's Malika, okay. How
Okay.
frequently should a woman get screened for cervical cancer? And is the incidence more in the particular age, in any particular age? Yes, Malika.
Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, a woman should get screened once in every 3 years if her screening is negative for cancer. Now, if on the other hand, she has a LSIL or a low-grade lesion or a HSIL, then the screening would differ according to her condition. So, if on the other hand, if she's having a HPV test, then she can do it once in every 5 years. If you're immunocompromised, then you would do it more frequently, maybe every year. Uh, um, uh, that's it. And the thing is that screening is so important. I don't know how we could emphasize to our country, to everyone who we could reach, that screening is important, because like all our speakers have said, that in 2018 there were about a lakh and some people who actually had the disease of cervical cancer, and about 67,000 of them who actually succumbed and died. And in spite of this scenario, only about 3.1% of our population of women who actually fall into this age group of 21 and 65 are actually getting screened, which is such a sad thing, And I just wish that we could do more towards getting people screened. So having said that, I'm just wondering how we could probably, I know that there are a lot of NGO organizations who are dealing with cervical screening. We met some of them in Hyderabad. There are some in Delhi, and there's some around those areas. And I'm sure they're pretty much all over India. And so that, it takes the load off the government to some extent. And yeah, and so this is so important for us to actually screen at a regular interval.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Sure, ma'am.
Actually, in the government setup, we have stopped taking a pap smear because, especially in the peripheries, we need a cytologist. So there is lack of manpower. So we depend only on VIA. And Magnavision, which will magnify the cervix, and the staff nurses can see through the Magnavision. And now this colposcope has come, and it's a very, very good idea. We can take it to the interior part of the states, and then we can train the staff nurses. And along with the FOGSI, we, the medical college gynecologists, we will be interested to train the staff nurses. It is a very good, innovative thing. And also the HPV testing, we cannot afford at the present moment. So if the HPV testing is also a little costly, and that these are the two drawbacks we have about this pap smear and this HPV testing. We don't do the routine HPV test.
Dr. Vijay, like you said, if only the EVA could be distributed in the primary health centers, because I know that your primary health centers have a wonderful program for screening, and like you said, Vilai, because I've had some patients of mine who are doctors in primary health centers, and then they tell us about the programs that you have. And if only they also had the EVA, it would be so good, it would really benefit their diagnosis making. So
Anything easy is always welcome. So instead of carrying that manual colposcope and digital colposcope, anything handy and which can give you the same result as a bigger one is always welcome. And if you can interpret, and also you can WhatsApp or email to the consultant or the expert. So the same moment, like ECG, echo sharing, and even CT and MRI reports are being screened and shared through WhatsApp only nowadays. Even ortho pictures, fractures, and even all those digital X-rays have come. So we should also move a step in advance in gynecology. It's a very welcoming move, yeah.
Great. So the next question is, does the technology also detect HPV types behind the precancerous cervical cancer?
I don't think it detects the types. What the
HPV
yeah.
be detected only by the HPV test.
Yeah.
So
It's a DNA
not
test,
by
basically.
looking at it,
Yeah.
not by looking at the cervix.
Yeah.
So you got to send the smear for HPV, or do a test or whatever, and then you get the HPV load, viral load, and everything, and which type of HPV is there.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so there is a next question and also a request along with this. It says, could you please explain the device and what is the added benefit if PAP and VA is done? What is the AI component?
So you want me to show this device? This is what the device is. It's a handheld, and you can put it on the stand, and it fits in your OPD. So when the patient is lying down, you're doing a per speculum examination, and then you just pull the small device right there. Focus it. There is a green filter here. Apply, you get a picture here after you filled up the name, and that picture automatically goes to the cloud or to your laptop, where a report will be generated from the 500 people who have classified all the pictures possible, and the artificial intelligence will tell you that this could be dysplasia 1, this could be access, this could be precancerous, this could be scomocolumnar junction abnormality, whatever. You can modify the diagnosis if you feel the machine is telling you wrong. And of course, very simple. So you just sit with the patient's legs are up, and this device is right there. Even instead of looking straight at the speculum, you can look at the screen. And if you look at the screen, you get the correct picture of how accurate your visualization is. So it's very, very simple to use. It's very, very handy to use, and it is very, very automatic. So every patient, what we are now doing is any gynec patient who comes, like someone said, stethoscope. So ultrasound has been a stethoscope for the obstetrician, and this has been the stethoscope for the gynecologist. Because women, in my OPD, of 100 gynec problems, 30-35 would be of bleeding problems, 30-35 would be of discharge problem. And the rest would be the other problems, so PID, pain, etc., etc. But in all 100, I have to look at the cervix. Because even if it is bleeding, I have to look whether the bleeding is from the cervix. So if I get something which can magnify the cervical image for me and give me a tentative diagnosis also, what more can I ask for? So it just simplifies my job and makes it easy and makes it very quick. Otherwise, what? I do a speculum, then send her into the colposcope room, which cannot be in your OPD because your OPD is small, cramped up. You cannot have that big machine here. Or you call her back again, and then the colposcopist says that this is wrong, and then you post her for biopsy. Here, as Ziva said, you have the red and the click, immediately tells you a biopsy is needed. You can take it there, you can do. So it's wonderful to me what our experience is in the last 1.5 years.
Okay, so the next question is this technology being used only in the urban districts? And also he wants to know, do gynaes in district hospitals use these, rural district hospitals also use these technology?
I can partially answer this. Adoption in private really is much more stronger, I should say, in the rural districts. because absolutely these rural districts are places where they want quick evidence to start treatment. And I'm so overwhelmed by the kind of response we have had in the tier 2, tier 3 towns across the country. I just said this even earlier. Obviously, on the government side, district headquarters hospitals, I mean, I'm sure someone can answer.
So in the government hospitals and district hospitals, I don't think we have the artificial intelligence technology. We have the, we don't have. So we have the video colposcopes, which is also technology, and it gives you records a video and on the colposcope on the screen, and you have to analyze it yourself or take an opinion.
We can connect it to the computer, sir, and a laptop, and then we can send the pictures too.
So you can send the pictures and get it corrected as Vijay.
Okay, so there is another question. Is there any other device that is available to screen cervical health screening with AI?
There's none. There's none with AI. Even with the EVA, it's just that we just about launching it. Dr. Simha said it's in the late end of the trials, and we just concluded the trials, and we are just starting to commercialize this. So there's none. There are several facets where EVA has taken an early lead. The company which is making this mobile ODT has taken an early lead. Is to completely understand the problem that they're solving for, and walking towards it, using technology. So one fundamentally is, looking at how a mobile phone, a mobile device can be used, along with a lens and a light source to be able to make it, at point of care as ubiquitous as it can be. The second, obviously, is to answer to Dr. Vijaya's question and to Vijaya's point, and of course the question which came up. They've designed a beautiful stand, to make sure that it's rests on the stand, and the stand is as portable as well. You can just fold it's like a tripod. You could just fold it and you can take it and you can hold it on that, so that the chances of dropping it during an exam is when it is the highest. So that's taken care as well. And of course, there's a very good case to transport, so that we don't have to worry about the breakage during the transit. So that's a very interesting thing. And when they realized that this device was gaining traction and a lot of interest across the world, they quickly brought in AI, and not just for saying is a problem or no problem, to help to ensure that the first thing that the AI does is to show that the image you've taken is good enough. That's the first thing, because somebody should know that the image I've taken, is it good enough for me to be able to make a diagnosis on it. If the image is not good enough, it's not going to go to the next step. So that's another very interesting way of making sure that the picture that you're taken is the right picture to take. And you're not making even sure that you have to click something, you just wave, and then it clicks. When you look at the cervix, when you're okay with the image, you wave and it clicks. And then to make sure that it's the right picture, or you have to take another picture. The right picture, then it gives you an early evidence. Dr. Simha said this very beautifully. So even before we could figure this out, the EVA here, the visual check figures it out and tells us, come on, there's some problem, look into it now, don't let it go. And these are very, very interesting. This product has been so beautifully, thoughtfully designed, its workflow, ease of use, and of course the advances. And I clearly don't think that there's anything today as comprehensive as this, available, for visual check.
I just want to add to Mr. Ganesh has been saying. The National Cancer Association in the US, they are the ones who actually worked along with MODT. So what they have said is that, when you do a pap smear, it is just 70% accurate, or sensitivity is only about 70%. But when you actually get this artificial intelligence, you could get about 90% sensitivity and an accuracy in the reporting, because they have actually pulled in, suppose you're looking at HSIL or CIN2, they've pulled in so many images and then studied it with the computer technology. And like Ganesh was saying, the first thing that the artificial intelligence will do, or the ape will do, is actually to see if this is cervical tissue. And just like the Bethesda system of screening, it will tell you whether the specimen is adequate, isn't it? And then only it will start the next thing, which is to actually say whether, you know, which is actually to detect any hotspots on your screen. So I think that is really amazing.
Great. So the next question is, while cervical tests and screening are done, are there any issues that you face due to lack of standards in the system?
Sorry, this was directed to, I couldn't hear, your voice was not so clear.
Okay, so these questions are open to all. I'll just repeat the question. While cervical tests and screenings are being done, are there any issues that you face due to lack of standards in the system?
Yeah, very much will be there, because, sir, I'll answer, sir, after that.
Please.
Yeah. Because it needs lot of training and practice. Everything will become abnormal and will look abnormal when you magnify and see. It will be very scary. Even this squamous columnar junction, the transformation zone, the new one, the old one, what you do if you don't see the transformation zone, to make them clear and understanding, you need to go on seeing the colposcopic pictures, and slowly only you will get used. This is normal, this is abnormal. So it takes really a lot of time. You cannot, because everything will look abnormal. Doesn't matter, even for the staff nurses, even if it looks abnormal, they can, as he said, they can transport the pictures to us, and we will give them the correct idea or the diagnosis. So it really needs a good experience to interpret the colposcopic pictures, because we ourselves save so many doubtful pictures and get to, discuss with our own colleagues and colposcopists, and then come to a diagnosis. So it's not that easy to interpret a colposcopic pictures.
Absolutely.
I'm sure on that.
Absolutely. I was just adding to that. Thanks, Dr. Vijaya, for taking the lead in answering this question. You know, the whole effort should be to reduce the learning curve. You know, because everything needs learning. Without learning, you can't absolutely say that, you know, I have an evidence. But in my view, the way this product is designed, the way the visual check is designed, terrifically shortens the learning curve. And that's absolutely something which, is going to make more adoption. You know, adoption is always with the fear that am I overseeing something? Am I not seeing something? So now if the system through its machine learning and artificial intelligence can shorten the learning curve to give you that confidence, that expands adoption. So those are considered in this equipment. So which is what I wanted to share.
So the next question is also for you, Mr. Ganesh. Someone wants to know, does this device needs to be connected to a computer software, especially in rural areas? Example, in distance screening camps.
No, you don't have to. This itself is like an hand phone. You know, it's like a device. So right, you know, you can just push it from the the device itself, and you know, at the receiving end, obviously, you know, they should have a device. They should have a ability to be able to see it. You know, they can have a computer or whatever. But at the transmitting end, it is just this device. There is nothing else that's needed beyond this device.
Okay.
The picture is transferable through WhatsApp?
This directly goes, madam. You don't WhatsApp interface is not even needed, because you can just push this to whomever you are connected in the system. So WhatsApp, we can't do a WhatsApp from the device. That's not possible.
You can make the pictures, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, you can mail it. You can put it on the cloud. You can.
Yeah, we can mail it. We can't WhatsApp it. We can put it on the cloud, and you can pick it from there. Yeah.
The next question is, how cost effective is this for the patient?
Dr. Narendra said he's not charging any. So it can be as low as that. So
So you're going to give supply freely to all of us?
why not? For Tamil Nadu government, we'll work out a program. So okay, I come from there, so let's work out something.
Okay.
As far as when I introduced Eva into Apollo First Med Hospital, I had the cooperation of my what you call it, the GM there. So I had put it at a very low cost. So we charge, I think, 600 rupees for the device screening, and then of course the extra things, that treatment room charges, that will be there. So, but it is a very low cost compared to.
Yeah, another suggestion is.
Yeah, after you, madam.
Yeah, another suggestion is you can incorporate into the Master Health Program checkup in what Tamil Nadu government is having in almost all the government hospitals. It could be done at a lower cost. It will be really helpful in screening, Mr. Ganesh.
Absolutely, madam. I think we should work together on this.
Okay.
I think we should. I will come and meet you, and
Okay.
let's see how to put this together.
That would really be good. I mean, if this could be incorporated into the government and then slowly into
then it
all
goes.
medical centers, that would be the best
That
thing.
would be the best, because it has to go where it is needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what I am doing is, I've got this tripod on my OPD, and as I do a per speculum, I just take a picture, just for my sake, just to magnify it.
Yeah.
If the patient further needs a reporting and everything, then she has to pay 500 bucks for. So that is how we are doing. Otherwise, we are looking at all the service through this without charging anything. It comes in the consultation fee.
Well, that's very good. Do you do it even during the Corona times? Are you brave enough to?
We were the only hospital in Agra working in Corona times as a non-COVID hospital. So we did have to work. But though the women did, I mean, suddenly all the women's diseases vanished. Huh? They all got well.
I know, that's what. I'm glad that you're also saying the same thing.
One interesting thing, Dr. Mallika, this Corona times, gives me a perspective to this. We have to, if the doctor had to, be evaluated to be doing this procedure,
yeah,
there's a trained staff nurse doing it.
Yeah,
they can be on a PPE, they can be safe, and the picture can be transferred. Now just imagine if the doctor had to do it and not the nurse or not the paramedic. It would be even more difficult. So the way that it is ubiquitous, the way it's you can be used by a staff nurse, who can obviously be completely protected with the PPE, and she can use it, and the specialist can remotely look at it. AI comes in handy to make sure that we're not missing anything. So it's I think even during Corona or post-Corona times, probably this is even more user friendly. Can make sure that we don't miss. I definitely don't believe that women problems have gone down. Women don't normally tell their problems. During Corona, probably they're not at all telling. So that's the only thing. So that we should not take that as the. I don't want to take that as the way out. But certainly we have to promote this. Women wellness is paramount, and awareness towards women's wellness. Devices has this. And these are not just devices which talk about a problem. We have a solution. We have government programs. We have an easy solution. Prevention as an opportunity. How do we miss this? So we should not at all.
Absolutely. But talking about PPEs, I think even we have got fed up of wearing PPEs. So now even during surgery, we just wear a face shield with an N95 and hope for the best, So, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So the next question is, what are the limiting factors to doctors in adopting the system?
First, they have to buy the machine.
Maybe the cost.
Everyone feels everything is expensive. So Ganesh has to do something for that.
Yeah.
And of
Absolutely,
course,
I totally agree.
Learning curve is not too great. Learning curve is not too great or too big. So it's very easy to learn. And then the second thing which our gynecs are is that they are, even in the medical colleges, district hospital, and even in private, the work is too much. So people are seeing 40, 50 patients every day in 6 hours or 7 hours. So it's like quick lie down. It's we did a survey and we saw that for a pregnant woman, Indian gynecologists see them only for 2 minutes average.
That's no use at all.
So that's the another limiting factor. So you got to, if you want to give good services, you got to give good time to the patient. So don't see, I'm sure in Europe, you don't see more than 10 patients a day. Zimmer?
We do.
You do? How many patients do you see per in an OP, in an outpatient?
Well, it depends. The timing probably depends on the private care and the public one.
Okay.
But it is approximately 30 to 50 patients a day, I would say.
Wow.
But
No,
it's not 6 hours. We usually work longer hours.
Okay.
Zimmer, is it a single person seeing 50 patients?
My personal record was around 40 something. So yeah, but we don't work
So
just 6 hours. We usually prolong the hours. Yeah.
We are seeing 50 plus every day, 365 days a year. So how do these doctors try for 10, 20 minutes? So that mindset has to change.
So interestingly, Dr. Narendra, I think this brings us to a very important point. Gone are the days when obstetricians and gynecologists used to almost do everything, right from checking temperature to checking the blood pressure.
That is exactly, you have to build up your paramedical training so well that half of your work should the nurses and your assistant should be doing.
Yeah. So when we make it as a protocol,
you are an expert. So all these things should be done and then come to you or on your screen. That is exactly what we have been talking about.
Yeah, because we have to just make it as a protocol, make sure that during the waiting time, there's somebody who's checking all this and you have everything on your desktop. And when the patient comes, you almost know everything that you have to look out for. And devices gives you the opportunity to do that. Just imagine a paramedic doing a big colposcopic examination and then sending. It's not going to work at all. But devices like this can be used. So we have to leverage, we have to change with time, change our protocols, make it seamlessly integrated in workflow and free up time for gynecologists and specialists.
Absolutely. I think that would be a great idea.
Well, that brings us to the end of a Q&A session. And now that we have indeed witnessed a very insightful session with a lot of takeaways on importance of screening and how use of newer technologies and how these are actually helping us in faster detection and prevention of cervical cancer. A question and a special request to all the speakers before we conclude. In sync with the multiple efforts that you have been doing on reducing cervical cancer, what would be your one message to the people who are watching us today? Starting with you, Dr. Narendra.
I thought we'll start with foreign Dr. Zimmer, I think. Okay, if you want me to go. So my take is that women have what we call as her unspoken problems. And a lot of time you have to bring out these problems by talking to them. So you need to be very sympathetic towards them and try to bring out these problems. And for cancer cervix, I would say, screen the mother, vaccinate the daughter. Then only by 2030, which is our goal in the SDGs, we could bring down or finish off cancer cervix. Now, this is two of the cancers which we can, by vaccinating, eliminate. The liver cancer by hepatitis B vaccination and cancer cervix by HPV vaccination. So why don't we do it?
Thank you, Dr. Narendra. Ms. Zimmer, it's what would be your message?
I will be happy to be the last one after distinguished professors here, really. I don't mind. So.
Dr. Mallika.
Yeah, actually, my actual heartfelt plea to everyone is please be screened for cervical cancer. You can prevent some terrible calamity for yourself, for your whole family, if only you would be screened. And the other thing is also, like Dr. Narendra was saying, get vaccinations. I don't know why people are reluctant. They say, let us see what happens. there are few people who are willing and happy to get vaccinated, but a lot of them don't want to vaccinate their daughters or go through screening themselves. So my real earnest plea would be, please do this. And for all doctors who are watching, please engage very actively in cervical screening. And also, if you could get an EVA device, let that be a part of your armamentarium. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mallika. Your message, Dr. Vijay.
Yeah, being in government service for so long, I definitely want to take this to the interior of Tamil Nadu. I want Tamil Nadu to become the best in everything in India. So I really want everyone to take this as an opportunity to screen our village health nurse, the urban health nurse, and the staff nurses to train them in colposcopy. We would be much happier in cooperating with the FOGSI and also others.
Mr. Ganesh, what would be your message?
So my message is obviously to the healthcare providers, the doctors, to create it, to make it feel easy for the women to be able to think about it as another routine exam. If you can make it as simple as that, it's like, when you call it a gynec stethoscope, so it just make them feel like, you're using a stethoscope on them. So they're under no stress or fear about, a diagnostic procedure. So now just imagine, they have to go to a diagnostic center to do a procedure, to do a pap smear or whatever, versus you doing at point of care, and to be able to treat immediately when there's a solution available and a prevention possible. I think we should make it available for everyone. That's my way of looking at it. So if it is not, we can't do much. A solution is available and a prevention opportunity is possible. So let's make it work. We will do our best from our side. I'm sure government will do, private. I'm sure FOGSI will play a significant role. But I think together we can absolutely eradicate this. We can make sure that we prevent this, and we don't have to be worrying about mortality rates. We don't even have to. We should not even worry about cancer rates. Everything should be prevented before the cancer itself.
Finally, your message, Dr. Zimmer.
Yeah. I would go for screening. And if you see anything pathological or you're not an expert, just make a fast referral to someone who knows what to do and who takes a histopathology testing. That's the basics. I saw a question was, do we treat without it? No, it's the golden standard, but do it fast. Every minute, day, week counts. That would be it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmer, and thank you to all the experts. These were great takeaways, and there is a lot to discuss, and a lot of discussion needs to go into accepting technology even in healthcare, because there is a public good in it. But for this panel discussion, we will leave it here. Appreciate all the speakers for joining us for the live webinar on the impact of artificial intelligence in cervical health screening. A big thank you to all our attendees for tuning in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye then.
Bye.
Nice meeting all of you.
Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. Nice meeting you, Alexandra.
Thank you.
And Dr. Vijaya once again.
Yeah. Bye. Nice meeting all of you. Yeah, we'll
Thanks,
keep in touch.
Yes.
Thanks, Dr. Simha. Thanks, Dr. Mallika. Thanks, Rashmi. Thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Narendra.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.